Good morning. My name is Kristen Wilcock, and I am a practitioner intern here at the Columbus Center for Spiritual Living. It is my honor and my pleasure to lead you in meditation this morning. Please take a moment and get comfortable. Close your eyes and take a slow, deep breath in and out. Keep breathing deeply and feel the cool air come in through your nose and flow through your body. Feel your chest extend as you breathe in. Feel your stomach moving slowly in and out as you inhale and exhale. Can you hear your breath as you breathe in and out? Pay attention to the sound of your breath. It's almost magical. Your whole body is alive. Allow the breath to fill you up. Fill your body and enjoy as the living energy of your breath goes into each and every cell, each and every atom of your body. Just feel the breath and relax into it. Thich Nhat Hanh teaches us about the importance of simply breathing. He tells us that the Buddha's first exercise on breathing is to recognize the breath. When you are breathing in, know that this is your in-breath and identify it. When you breathe out, know that this is your out-breath. Something wonderful happens when we pay attention to our in-breath and our out-breath. We stop the thinking, and this in itself is a miracle. We stop the thinking and we begin to be where our body is. Our body and our mind are often separated. And in between, we have our breath. The moment when we pause while breathing and bring in and out consciously, our body and our mind become one. As we continue to practice breathing in and out with concentration on the breath, we attain what we call the oneness of body and mind. Your body and mind are unified, and you begin to be truly yourself in the present moment. To be alive, to be present, is the practice of mindfulness. The simple practice of breathing in and breathing out allows us to be available, allows us to connect with our beloved, allows us to be in the present moment, and life can only be found in the present moment. In the present moment, you encounter everything wonderful, everything refreshing. In running to the future or getting lost in the past, we miss life. Breathing in and out is a way to get back to life, back to the present moment. Happiness, peace, joy are all in the present moment. The Pure Land of the Buddhist must be found in the present moment. The kingdom of heaven is found in the present moment. So I invite you to take this time to get in touch with everything that is wonderful, everything that is refreshing, everything that is healing in this moment. For the next few minutes, I invite you to simply breathe in and breathe out. I invite you to just be and just breathe. The magic of the breath. Breath is life. As you breathe in and out, start to gently bring your attention back to the here and now. Start to notice the space around you again. Start to become a bit more aware of the sounds and sensations around you. Remember that you can always come back to this place of connection, this place where the mind and the body are one, by simply focusing on the breath. And in your own time, when you are ready, gently open your eyes. Namaste.
Good morning. How do I top that beautiful music? Welcome to Columbus Center for Spiritual Living. My name is Joanie Bauman, practitioner, and I'll be giving you the announcements today. Due to the current pandemic, we will be offering our Sunday celebration live stream to our YouTube channel at Columbus CSL. Everyone is invited to join Reverend Gregory for his prosperity workshop today from 12 to 2 p.m. This will be via Zoom, and you can find the Zoom information in your weekly Word newsletter that goes out every Wednesday evening. You can also access the Zoom sign-in links on our Facebook page. Please join us via Zoom for our ongoing Wednesday community connections. See your CCSL Weekly Word e-newsletter for the Zoom sign-in or call the CCSL office. You can also find the Zoom sign-in on our Facebook page. Ready to come and share your talent? How about doing some song, poetry, storytelling, or whatever you'd like to share at the newly named Open Hearts Open Mic. This will occur on Friday, June 12th from 7 to 9 p.m. This will also be via Zoom, and you can find the Zoom sign-in information in your weekly CCSL Weekly Word newsletter or on our Facebook page, or you can contact the office. Please join us. It's truly a lot of fun. If you want prayer after service or anytime throughout the week, you can find our prayer practitioners on our website, columbuscsl.org, or you can submit a prayer request on our website. That's the news for today. Let's all sing our opening song.
Take a look at the person next to you. Say God loves you and I love you too. Feel the love and the unity. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together, we come together, we come together, in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together, in the name of love. Take a look at the person next to you. Say namaste, I bow to you. Feel the love and the unity. Lift your voice and repeat after me. We come together, we come together, we come together, in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together, in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together, in the name of love. We come together, we come together, we come together, in the name of love.
Good morning and welcome. We are an inclusive organization. We respect you and where you are on your spiritual path. We thank you for joining us this morning on our YouTube channel. And if you have not subscribed to our channel, please do so now. And remember to give it a thumbs up and ring the bell. We would love to have you. Also, a recording of our service of today will be posted to our Facebook page. Please read our mission statement along with me. We serve the transformation of individual lives through education, spiritual practice, and deep community, using spirit and science of mind principles as our compass. I'd like to thank practitioner intern Kristen Wilcock for her wonderful meditation and practitioner Julie Matheson for holding virtual high watch for our service today. We now begin our sacred service with the ringing of the bowl. A quote by Thich Nhat Hanh: "Smile, breathe, and go slowly." Now let the music take us within.
So sacred, so secret, so precious, this love. 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 I will share, I will share, I will share, I will share, I will share of my life, I will share this love. This love, 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 this love.
And as we contemplate these beautiful words, sacred, and continue to go to that deep place within, I am conscious of the presence of spirit, divine wholeness, and fullness of life. I am one with this wonderful presence, a source of calm, of peace, and of truth, creatively expressing as each of us, connected in spirit. As I breathe spirit in, I claim that this calm and stillness inhabits our whole being, including our minds and hearts, allowing us to continually expand and see the greater good. There is no limit to this expansion as we share ourselves and our love with each other. May we continue to embody this calm and stillness with our eyes open to all possibilities, possibilities that lead us to the most amazing vision. We rest in this peace and security. And I know this service is in divine order, perfect and blessed, lifting us with inspiration and overflowing joy. A great stillness shall be ours as I release this into the law, knowing that it is already done. With a grateful heart for this calming and enlightened presence within, please join me in saying, and so it is.
I will share. 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 I will share His love. This love, 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 this love. I don't want to give words to it. Anything you have to interpret will only eclipse the heart of it. I just want to send it in sound with a wavelength clarity. Ooh, nothing I could ever say will resonate the same way that this love does in me. Inhale, exhale, breathe. Somewhere in the beat of your heart, there I am. And somewhere underneath all the war-torn believing, there you have always been. It's something like a melody, it's something like a song, and it sings itself and it's never wrong. Ooh, everywhere it plays for me, it's always on repeat. It's the love song of everything. Inhale, exhale, breathe. Breathe with me. just there in my body. It's not just there in the thoughts that I think. It's there in the roots, in the skies and the seas, in the eyelids, the irises, the wind and the wings, in the will be, the ever was, the reason, and the just because. I am the song that I sing. Inhale, exhale, breathe.
Good morning, Columbus CSL, and thank you so much, Jesse. What a beautiful song. Loved breathing with you, Jesse. Thank you for that. So good morning, and our topic this morning is just breathe. And if we wonder what global transformation looks like and feels like, just know that that's exactly what we are experiencing right now in our world. We are being presented with all kinds of opportunities to shift and to transform, and the breath is the perfect vehicle for that. To just breathe, just take a deep breath with all that is taking place in the world, with all that is unfolding in the world. Just breathe, take a deep breath, because we're being called to move out of our conditioned ways of thinking and our conditioned ways of being, our being on autopilot, our being unconscious, and we're being called into being the most conscious self, perhaps, that we've ever been. And the breath is the pathway for that. We say, just breathe, take a deep breath, take a deep breath before responding, take a deep breath before reacting, take a deep breath even before you decide what you think about the events going on in the world. There's a bumper sticker I used to love that said, "Don't believe everything you think." So much of our thinking, so much of the ways that we look at things come from our conditioned thinking. I want to share a quote from Thich Nhat Hanh in his book, Peace is Every Step. He said, just breathing and smiling can make us very happy, because when we breathe consciously, we recover ourselves completely and encounter life in the present moment. The breath, yes, brings us fully into the present moment of right now, takes us out of our conditioned ways of thinking, our conditioned ways of being, our conditioned ways of reacting. And aren't all the events in the world right now really calling us to that? Really calling us to step out of our conditioned ways of being. It's very interesting and very synchronistic that our topic today, of course, planned long in advance, is just breathe. And then part of the events in our world, as we look at George Floyd and we look at his final comments that said, "I can't breathe." This most important of things, this pathway to our centering, this pathway to our life, really. It is the life force moving in us. I want to talk today a lot about oneness. In Science of Mind, we teach that the only thing to be healed is a belief in separation. So I want to talk about oneness today, and I want to bring us into oneness, because the events taking place in the world, it's so easy. Of course, there was already so much partisanship and division before we had the pandemic and before we had all of these things before our eyes that, look like racial injustice and things of that nature. There was already a lot of division. And one of the most interesting things to me as I've traveled in many places around the world and been aware of worldly events is how often as human beings we go into separation, how many ways we find to separate ourselves. And in Science of Mind, again, we say the only thing to be healed is a belief in separation. We're each individualized expressions of that one, but it's a paradox because we are also all the one. In reality, when I look at you, I'm looking at a mirror. I'm looking at myself in the mirror. I'm looking at the version of myself that is you. And when you look at me, you're looking in the mirror and you're looking at the version of yourself that is me, the aspect of yourself that is me. When I look at you, I'm looking at the aspect of myself that is you. In truth, we're all one. So often it's very easy to separate. It's often to think in terms of what side should I be on? Should I take the side of the police? Should I take the side of those who are protesting? Should I take the side of George Floyd? Whose side should I take? Whose side should I be on? And really, there's only one side because there is oneness. There is not separation. We are not separate from one another. So the side that we can be on is on the side of love. We can be on the side of peace. We can go to the golden rule, which I was thinking of this morning as Humanity 101, the golden rule that is said to weave its way through all of the world's religions in some shape or form. Do unto others as you would have them do unto you. And there's many different versions of that. It's very simple. It's Humanity 101. It's like, how would I like to be treated? And when we realize that I am George Floyd and you are George Floyd, the man who had a knee placed on his neck and had his life ended that way by a police officer. But then also to know that I am Derek Chauvin, the police officer who put the knee on George Floyd, and you are Derek Chauvin also. Brings it home very real. And as hard as that is, we say, just breathe. Take a deep breath into that. That this is all of us in our humanity, that this is all of us, that there is no separation. And now we can begin to solve this because now it's no longer something out there. It's something that it's like our own humanity. Where as humanity have we separated ourselves? Where as humanity have we stepped into this place where we can't see each other's humanity? We all essentially want the same things. We want to be treated with love, with respect, with dignity. Just breathe. Just breathe. Take a deep breath so that we can see anew what is happening in our world and see that it is calling us to transformation. It is not calling us to the status quo. It's not calling us to defend the status quo. And it's also not calling us to find out. I mean, there are those that's their job to do that, to find out who's right, who's wrong, what have you. But ultimately, we're not being called to say, are the police right? And are the police good or are the police bad? Are the people being arrested good or bad? Are the protesters good or bad? What we're really being called into is to rise up into a greater sense of who we are in all of our humanity and also in our divinity. Who are we in our divinity? We're being called to step fully into our divinity. We are being called to see each other, to breathe, to just breathe, to take a breath for a moment here, to really look at what is taking place and see what it is calling us to. We say, well, is racism still here or is racism gone? And we just breathe rather than have our knee-jerk reaction to that, our conditioned response to that. We just breathe and we say, there are certain things that are taking place in our world. Perhaps at times we're not seeing each other in all of our equality. We're not seeing each other in all of our divinity. We're not seeing each other in all of our humanity. And I think what gets us stuck is this belief in separation. And if we could step into this oneness where I am George Floyd, and I am Derek Chauvin, and you are George Floyd, and you are Derek Chauvin, and and George Floyd is your son and your grandson, and Derek Chauvin is your son and your grandson. Now we start to see this more clearly. Now we just breathe. We take a breath into that, because that's hard, right? That's hard to think that that is me, that that is my son, that is my grandson in either case. But when we start to step into this oneness, when we start to step into that this is the reality here, that we are all one and not separate, then we start to see, yes, we start to see that we are all of it. And we start to see that it's not a question of whether racism exists or not. It's a question of what part do we play? What have we collectively created in our world where there would be injustices? What have we created where we've stepped into separation? And how can we come back into oneness? How can we come back into fully seeing each other, fully being there for each other? Just breathe. Take a breath. Take a breath. Take a breath. I think of in my own experience, maybe about 15 years ago, when I was pulling up in my car in the front of my home, and I was dressed in full white robes and regalia. I was dressed royally. I was coming from a church event in a center for spiritual living, and it was a beautiful, sacred event. And I was dressed just royally, just white robes, my best white robes I could have, I was dressed in. And I pulled up in front of my home, and a police officer stopped me in front of my home, and he started interrogating me. And he started asking me all kinds of questions. And I said, "Oh, why are you interrogating me? Why are you asking me all these questions?" And he said, "Well, we've had a string of burglaries in the area, car burglaries, and you fit the description," or something to that effect. And I couldn't fathom it in that moment, because I am dressed to the T's in white robes. And I can't think of how anyone could fathom that someone dressed to the T in white robes could be out there wanting to burglarize a car. And it just brought home to me in that moment. It felt terrible. It felt horrible to be in that situation. But at the same time, in the consciousness of oneness, it's like we have to call out the behavior and not begin to generalize the group of people, not to begin to generalize that police officers somehow are bad or evil, not to generalize that groups of people are races of people are this or they're that. Where we come into our oneness is where we stand on the side of love. We stand on the side of peace. We stand on the side of fairness. We stand on the side of everyone being treated with dignity. We're not divided at all in that regard. We come into our oneness. And then I think of some years later, I was in a situation where I was called out to a couple of people in my church who were actually having a dispute with one another. And one of them also called the police. And the policeman showed up first, and then I showed up. And as I walked in, I gave each of the women who were in the dispute a hug. And then the police officer said, well, what about me? Don't I get a hug? And he was kind of joking. And he was a big burly police officer. And I grabbed him in a big bear hug, and I gave him this big hug. And I hugged this policeman. And he melted. And he just realized that his work was done there. And that what I was bringing, which was love, which was peace, which was a consciousness of wholeness, was what was needed there. And he just slipped away and left. And there was this beautiful moment of oneness. And then I look and I see the police officers who are taking a knee right now to show that we are one, essentially, is how I take that we are one, that we are all in this together. In our separation, we start to try to parse out. We start to try to generalize. All police are this. All Black people are this. All white people are this. And on and on and on and on. Where we stand together and where we stand in oneness is where we stand for our principles. We stand for that each person is a divine expression of God. If we stand in that, there can be no division. There can be no separation. There can only be love. There can only be truth. And so we can all stand together and say that what happened to George Floyd is wrong. There's no other explanation. There's no, well, maybe there was this. No. We can all be one, and we can all be united in saying that should not happen to another human being. That should not happen to a divine expression of God. And we don't have to hate on the police officer. We just know that that person has to be held accountable for their actions, that we have to hold each other accountable, but we're not separate. We don't have to hate on him and decide that now we hate the police officer and we love George Floyd, or vice versa. We come back to our oneness. We come back to our teaching. We come back to that each person is a divine expression of God, and each person, everyone, every one of us ultimately want the same things. We all want to be treated with love, with respect, with dignity. And so we come back, and instead of being on different sides of things, whether it's should the protesters be protesting or not? Well, we honor everyone's right to free speech. We honor everyone's right to full expression of their being. And then we stand on the same side with each other if people are committing violence, and we say, no, that's not okay, right? We don't do harm to our fellow beings. And we stand together on the same side if people are destroying the property of others and say, no, that's not okay. But then we don't generalize the protesters, because so many of the protesters are peacefully protesting. So we come into this oneness, and we find ways to stand together in things, in truth, as opposed to the way the mind sometimes works, which is to parse things out and divide things and decide who's right, who's better, who's this. And what we're really being called to in these times is to rise up into the consciousness of oneness, to just breathe, to take a breath for a moment before we respond, before we react, before we decide how we think about a situation. We just breathe for a moment. It takes us into the present moment. That takes us into perhaps an awareness of our oneness. And in this awareness of our oneness, we know that all are one with us and one as us. And we know that as I look at each person, I am looking at myself. And once we begin to think of each person as ourselves, how could we do anything but offer love, compassion, and kindness? That's what we would want. That part of us that is George Floyd laying on the ground, that's what we would want. The part of us that is now Derek Chauvin, who stands accused and probably faces some really difficult times ahead. We get to look at ourselves and say, that part of me that is Derek Chauvin, how would I want to be treated right now? And we offer our love and compassion for the difficult road ahead for him, regardless of any judgments we have about how he arrived there and how he got there. This is a difficult truth, this truth of oneness. So we just breathe. We take a deep breath. We take a moment to say, yes, all of life is one. What does that look like when I recognize that all of life is one? That I am George Floyd and I am Derek Chauvin, that there's no separation. Then we stand on the same side of things. We stand on the same side of love, of peace, of wholeness. No division, no separation. Now, when we start to take that deep breath and we start to see how things are unfolding, now we can start to dismantle things that aren't working for us as humanity. We don't have to be defensive anymore. We don't have to think, oh, I'm going to be a bad person if I acknowledge this, or I'm going to be thought of as a bad person if I acknowledge this. We get to say, what is it that has led in recent times to so many unarmed Black males losing their lives at the hands of police? We don't have to say all police are bad. We just get to be in that inquiry to say something needs our attention here. Something needs our focus here, because that's me, that's you laying on the ground there. And what would we want for ourselves? What do we want for ourselves? What do we want for our sons and our daughters and our grandsons and our granddaughters? And we stand on the same side of all of this. There's no division. We stand on the same side of this and say, how do we create a world where everyone is honored, where everyone is respected, where everyone has dignity? No separation, no even finger pointing, you. No, we come into this space of inquiry. We come into the space of listening to each other's experience. We come into the space of honoring each other's experience. And then we really start to create a world that works for everyone. We really start to live out this teaching of oneness, and we really start to invite our world into a different way of being with each other that is not grounded in separation, that is grounded in our absolute oneness with each other. Now, we can solve the so-called problems of the world. It's like Einstein said, and Ernest Holmes said similarly, that we can't solve the problem at the level of the problem. So if we just start to take our conditioned way of thinking that, well, I'm not a racist and we get defensive and all of this, or we're on the other side and we're like, oh, this person is this and that person is that. I'm angry at this person and I'm angry at the system. We're trying to solve it at the level of the problem, and it just keeps persisting. If that would have worked, it would have worked a long time ago. What we need is to come out of separation and come into oneness and see that this is all of us. All the players involved are each one of us. Each one of us is all the players involved. Each one of us is the good police officer who is just doing a good job and who has signed up to be a police officer to serve and to do good in the community. And each one of us is the police officer that somehow has misused the power, or somehow has gone off track. That is each one of us. Where have we gone off track at times? Where have our intentions at times failed us? Where have we fell short of our intentions? We come into the space of absolute oneness. And in the space of absolute oneness, we begin to solve problems. We begin to look at, rather than this charged conversation, we begin to look at what creates some of the things that we see. In Science of Mind, we teach that we create our experience, and then we collectively create our experience as well. So how are we collectively creating an experience where there are injustices, where sometimes the injustices are based on race? How do we collectively create that without trying to find out and make people bad and wrong? Because essentially we are all good at our core. So how do we come into this oneness where we can truly solve the problem? Because we're no longer trying to defend whether we're a good person or not. The starting point is that good is in every person. Divinity is in every person. So we start with that every person is the divine in expression, and therefore goodness is at their core. So we're not even trying to have the conversation about who's the bad guy, who's the good guy, who's the bad guy. The conversation we're having is, in all of the goodness and all of the divinity that we each are, where is more of our divinity being called for? Where have we have a blind spot where we're not seeing something? There's this concept called implicit bias. I prefer the term unconscious bias. And that's where all of us really get to take a deep look, because this is not about being a bad person. This is about our conditioning. This is about things that we're unaware of in terms of how we think. One really good example is studies that they've done with young Black children, and they've shown them a white doll, racially white doll, and a racially Black doll. And so many times, and they ask them, which doll is the good doll and which doll is the bad doll? And it was alarming how often these little Black children would say that the white doll was the good doll. That is implicit bias. That is unconscious bias. So that's getting fed into all of us on some level, and we can get into why and how and all of that. But the most important thing is that we start to expand our awareness. We get out of our defensiveness and we start to say, yes, yes, we all have blind spots. Yes, we all have biases. Now, how can I bring that to the surface and bring that into my awareness in such a way that we create a more conscious society, and therefore we create a more just society? We really create a world that works for everyone. So the invitation today is to just breathe, to take that deep breath with everything that is unfolding in the world, to take that deep breath before our conditioned thinking and our conditioned ways of being and our conditioned ways of looking at the world kick in, and before our defensiveness kicks in, and before our programming about am I a good person or am I a bad person kicks in. And we take that deep breath and we see the world very clearly, and we see how it's calling each of us to come more fully into our divinity and to see more fully the divinity of others. And we see all the places where we've separated ourselves from others, where we've created an other, and we think that person is out there and they're out there, someone so different than me. And instead, we bring it right here to our heart and we say, George Floyd is me. That's me laying on the ground saying, I can't breathe. Derek Chauvin is me. That's me putting the knee on George Floyd. And from there, in recognizing our oneness and in recognizing and being willing to look at the darkest corners of our own being, which doesn't mean we're a bad person. Of course, you're not a bad person. You are God in expression. I am God in expression. But we get to shine the light on those places of darkness. We get to shine the light on those blind spots. We get to awaken more divinity in ourselves. Just breathe. Take that breath before the conditioned ways of thinking can come forth. See life anew, and the answers are right there within us to create this beautiful world that works for all of us and where we live in harmony with each other, in oneness with each other, and we dissolve every sense of separation. Thank you so much. God bless you. And let us turn within for prayer. And so in this moment, I just recognize that oneness, that core truth, that core spiritual truth that God is all that there is. That there is just one power, one infinite intelligence, one infinite life, and it is God, and it is good, and it is divine. And that is my very life and being. That is the very life and being of George Floyd. It is the very life and being of Derek Chauvin. It is the very life and being of every protester. It is the very life and being of every police officer. It is the life and being of every person everywhere. Each one a divine expression of God. And so I speak this word right now, declaring and knowing that every sense of separation right now is being dissolved as we all shine our light of truth on everything taking place in our world. And we take a deep breath so that we can see so clearly, so clearly. We see each other. We see our divinity. We see the divinity in all others. And then we see all the places where we can bring our divinity more fully into expression. And by doing so, right now, right here, we are creating this beautiful world that resembles and starts to look like heaven on earth. I am just deeply grateful for this awareness, deeply grateful for this truth, deeply grateful for the good that is right now coming forth and the healing that is right now coming forth by each one of us just taking that deep breath, by each one of us just allowing ourselves to be the fullness of our divinity and seeing the fullness of the divinity in every other person, in every walk of life, in every aspect. Everywhere we look, all we see is God. I give so much thanks for the world that we are creating. In gratitude, I let this be. I release this word and we ground it and accept it with the words. And so it is. God bless you.
Thank you for that beautiful message, Rev. We're all, there's so many of us out there who have the power to create change. And it starts exactly the way that Reverend Gregory was saying. We just breathe. And we get into that special aligned place and so much can happen. If you hear this message, wherever you stand, I'm calling every woman, calling every man. We're the generation, we can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late. We've been looking for a song to sing. We search for a melody, search for someone to lead. We've been looking for the world to change. If you feel the same, then go on and say, if you're out there, I'm dying to believe that you're out there. Stand up and say it loud if you're out there. Tomorrow's starting now. Now. No more broken promises, no more calls to war, unless it's love and peace that we're really fighting for. We can destroy hunger, we can conquer hate. Put down the arms and raise your voice, we're joining hands today. Oh, I was looking for a song to sing, I searched for a leader, but the leader was me. We were looking for the world to change. We can be heroes, just go on and say if you're out there. Sing along with me if you're out there. I'm dying to believe that you're out there. Stand up and say it loud if you're out there. Tomorrow is starting now. Now, now, now. Oh, now, now. If you're ready, we can shake the world. Believe again, it starts within. We don't have to wait for destiny. We can be the change that we want to see if you're out there. Oh, if you're out there. Oh, if you're out there and you're ready now, say it loud, scream it out if you're out there. Sing along with me if you're out there. I'm dying to believe that you're out there. Stand up and say it loud if you're out there. Tomorrow's starting now. If you're out there. Oh, if you're out there. If you're out there. If you hear this message, wherever you stand, calling every woman, calling every man. We're the generation that can't afford to wait. The future started yesterday, and we're already late.
Beautiful music, Jessie. I just want to kind of take a moment and just pause on that. But it's now time for the giving of our gifts. And thank you for the way that you are all continuing to support the center during these times. We're honored to be able to continue to support you spiritually, and we appreciate the gifts, donations, and ties that you give to CCSL. Your donations are important because it helps us to fulfill our vision statement in helping to create a world that works for everyone. As we engage with the law of circulation, we remember that God is our source and we are circulating spirit's energy in the form of money by giving and receiving. Please say our affirmation with me. My gift goes forth to heal and bless and prosper. It does its good and perfect work and returns to me multiplied abundantly. And so it is.
self-existent joy. I walk in love. I am one with the one. I am one with the one. I am one with eternity. I am abundant. I am unlimited. I am abundant. I am unlimited. I am abundant. I am unlimited.
I am so grateful for our celebration today and for the sharing of talents and treasure. As I take all of this in and experience this bounty, I know that the gifts presented here are given and received with love, joy, and a sense of abundance of infinite source. Thankful that we are all one, and for the many gifts we bring. Together we sing.
And so it is, and so we let it be. And so it is, and so we let it be.
Let's thank Reverend Gregory Toole for his talk today, for Carisa Holmes and Jesse Powers, along with Tony Bonardi on piano, Steve Paracas on bass, and Joe Nelson on drums, who have collaborated their musical talents to provide the music for us today. Thank you to all that are with us today for Sunday celebration service. If you're joining us for the first time today, we welcome you. We would love to send you a welcome packet in the mail with information about us. Please call the office or send us a private Facebook message. Also, if you're not receiving information about services, you can also call the office and send us a Facebook message. Please say our blessing with me. There is only one life. That life is God's life. That life is perfect. That life is my life now. And so it is.
All right, we all know this one. I invite you to lift your voice and sing along with me and shine your light. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Where are we gonna shine it? Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Everywhere I go, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Oh, this little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. This little light of mine, I'm gonna let it shine. Let it shine, let it shine, let it shine. Peace and blessings. Have a beautiful week.